everyone, this is Ilina and welcome to another LDRS creative card making video. For today's card, we'll be using the Cherry Blossom layering dies, the Quilted Plaid background die, and the Cosmos stamp set for the sentiment. I have also a piece of very pale gray cardstock for my background, and I have already die cut all the layers for the cherry blossoms. So use different shades of pinks for the flowers and different shades of green for the leaves and the stems. So let's get started. We have 4 layers for the little bud, and I have the base layer die cut from the lightest pink, and I'm just layering. It's very easy to layer. It's very kind of, you know where it goes, for especially for the bud, so you know that all those pieces go towards the bottom. And also you can refer to the LDRS creative website to see the layering guide if in case you get confused. So next, let's do the flower. I have the 3 base layers for the flower, and then I have the flower center. There are 2 little, like for the stamens, for the center. And then there's the base that's I die cut from the darker pink. And the center is from mahogany and very dark pink, like plum pink. So next I'm using my white gel pen to add little dots on the ends of those stamens. The stamen. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. And then I will add the layers together. Adhere those starting from the bottom up. I'm adding the first layer to the base layer. So basically the first and second layer. Then I will add the third layer, and then I will add the base, not the base, but the center. So you can see how that cherry blossom starts to form. I'm adding a paper weight on top so it dries nice and flat. And while that dries, I am adhering the leaves and the stems. So we have the stem for the little bud, some 2 pieces, and we also have the leaves. They have 2 pieces for each to create kind of a more dimensional look. We have 2 different leaves and 2 different stems in the set, so I'll be using both of the leaves and both of the stems. So one stem we already added to the bud, the other one is for the flower that's already opened, the one that's drying under my paper weight there. So I won't use all 4 leaves, I'll use 3 leaves and one of the stems, so I'm just adding that layer only on one of the stems. So this is the stem for the flower. Now I'm adding more white dots on the center of that, and then I'll add it on the center of my flower. Okay, I think that looks good. Now let's kind of decide where we want all these elements to be on my card panel. I'm starting first with the large flower, then I'm adding the bud and the leaves. So as you saw there, I tried different locations for that bud, and then I decided to put it on the upper part of my card, and then 3 leaves around it, and then the sentiment. So now that I've decided where how my positioning will be, location, and also for the sentiment, I'll be using my stamping tool to stamp the sentiment with Raven Hybrid ink. So I'm trying to make sure that it's nice and centered there, that it's straight. So okay, we stamped that. I'm removing the die cuts from my panel, And I'm using my heat tool to make sure that's nice and dry, because I'll be running it through my die cutting machine. I'll use the Quilted Plaid background die to create a little bit texture on that background. So I decided to run it through my die cutting machine after I stamped, because it's easier to stamp on non-textured or no non-die cut panel. Then after we have die cut that and created that texture. So by magic of YouTube, I have already die cut that. I'm just removing the tape that I used to hold it to my die so it does not move. Next, to reinforce that panel, I'm adding another piece of scrap cardstock on the back. I'm using some liquid adhesive to adhere it together. Just making sure that that dries nice and flat. Okay, now let's now adhere our flowers and leaves and stems. So I'm starting first with the large flower. Again, before I start adhering them, I'm positioning them where I want them to be. And then we're going to move to adhering them down to the panel. Okay, so it all looks good. So I'm starting with the large flower and I'm using a foam square. So I'm adding that there. So next, we're gonna trim off that stem from the little bud. Since I have that foam tape underneath, it was not able to go all the way down, so I had to cut it off. To cut the stem off a little bit so it fits nicely and snug under that flower. I'm doing similar thing to this to the larger leaf. I just trimmed a little bit of that stem. I'm adding some adhesive on the back and adding it under the flower. So having that flower popped up using one of the foam squares gives us a little bit space underneath to kind of insert all the other elements. So now I'll add that last leaf a little bit under that stem, the little kind of pointy part that's there, so that fits perfectly. Okay, so now let's trim off the excess of that stem, and now we're ready to adhere that to a note card. I had created a note card using white cardstock that measured 4¼ by 11, and I scored it at 5½ and fold it in half to create a top folding note card. And our card is finished. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching this video. And visit the LDRS Creative website, also our YouTube channel, for more ideas and more inspiration. Thanks for watching. Bye.